در 3 هفته اول جنگ تاکتیک‌های تهاجمی جدید.
Intelligence and operational commanders of the armed forces have introduced new offensive tactics and more advanced systems for the next phase of objective-driven operations. The battlefield will become increasingly constrained and difficult for the enemy, by God's will. Iran's festive New Year's blow has slammed into Israel with devastating force. Benjamin Netanyahu himself admits it was a difficult evening, as wave after wave of Iranian missiles pounded Israeli territory. With at least 200 injured and 20 reported dead, even the IDF admitted failed to intercept some of the incoming missiles. Is this an eye for an eye, as Dimona burns in retaliation, coming just hours after American-Israeli strikes on Iran's Natanz nuclear site? 8 major attacks in just 24 hours suggest Iran is determined to keep its true promise to Israel. Iran launched a massive coordinated attack on Israel on March 21st, with direct impacts reported across multiple cities in the south and intense alerts sounding throughout the country. Iranian missiles made several direct impacts in the southern Israeli towns of Dimona and Arad, shattering the sense of security in communities that sit near Israel's most sensitive nuclear infrastructure. The strikes caused extensive damage to Arad city center, with rescue services and local officials describing collapsed facades, shattered homes and streets littered with debris in early reports. According to the IRGC, citing Israeli media, the attacks killed at least 20 people and injured some 200 in Arad alone, turning a quiet town into one of the deadliest scenes of this phase of the war. Subsequently, the main hospital in Arad declared a state of emergency as it struggled to treat the surge of casualties, with doctors and nurses working around the clock to stabilize the wounded. Drone footage released by an emergency medical service showed the grim scene of the strike in Arad from above, revealing mangled buildings, emergency vehicles and crowds of rescuers racing through the rubble. One missile carrying a conventional warhead slammed into an open area between several apartment buildings, sending shockwaves through the neighborhood and spraying shrapnel deep into nearby homes. That Iranian missile reportedly carried a 450-kilogram conventional warhead, a size powerful enough to carve a huge crater into the earth and tear through reinforced concrete structures. In Dimona, over 40 people were hurt when an Iranian ballistic missile impacted the area, with injuries ranging from shrapnel wounds to serious trauma caused by collapsing walls and flying debris. A missile directly struck a building in Dimona, according to rescue services quoted by the Times of Israel, leaving residents trapped inside and forcing search and rescue teams into a race against time. Subsequently, Israel said it was opening a formal investigation into why its air defenses failed to intercept the missiles that hit Arad and Dimona, a rare admission that its shield did not perform as promised. The Israeli army said its systems did engage the incoming missiles, but that some interceptors failed mid-flight, a technical breakdown that allowed direct hits on populated areas, according to the Times of Israel. Apart from the strikes on Dimona and Arad, Iran also targeted the southern port city of Eilat, although local officials reported no injuries there and said most residents had already taken shelter. Reacting to the latest barrage, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu described it as a difficult evening, acknowledging the scale of the attack even as he vowed that Israel would continue to hit back. Netanyahu said, and I quote, "This is a very difficult evening in the battle for our future. A short time ago, I spoke with the mayor of Arad, Yair Mayan, and asked him to convey, on behalf of all the citizens of Israel, our prayers for the peace of the wounded. I instructed the Director General of my ministry to provide all necessary assistance, along with all government ministries. I am strengthening the emergency and rescue forces currently operating in the field, and I call on everyone to obey the Home Front Command's instructions. We are determined to continue to strike our enemies on all fronts." Iran openly said it targeted Dimona as a response to an earlier strike on its Natanz nuclear complex, framing the attack as direct retaliation in a tit-for-tat battle over nuclear facilities. Dimona houses Israel's main nuclear research center, long believed to underpin its undeclared nuclear arsenal, and Iranian officials had previously threatened to strike it if Israel hit nuclear sites on Iranian soil. However, the IDF publicly insisted it was not responsible for the March 21st attack on Iran's Natanz nuclear site, denying any role even as Tehran pointed the finger at Israel and vowed retaliation. The attacks on Dimona and Arad were part of Iran's 73rd wave of Operation True Promise 4, according to the military statement. IRGC said, and I quote, "The south and north of the occupied Palestinian territories were targeted in the 73rd wave of Operation True Promise 4, under the code Yahidar, in tribute to the bravery of air defense martyrs. The strikes were carried out using missile and drone systems of the IRGC Aerospace Force. Military installations and security centers in Arad, Dimona, Eilat, Beersheva, and Kiryat Gat in the south were struck following the collapse of the Israeli Army's air defense systems. U.S. bases in the region, Ali al-Salem, Minhad, and al-Dafra, were also precisely hit using Fatah, Qadr, and Ahmad missile systems, along with loitering drones. According to field reports, more than 200 killed and wounded were recorded in the early hours of the attack. Israeli security officials have reportedly increased pressure on journalists and eyewitnesses to censor damage and casualty reports. It is necessary to commend the efforts of Hezbollah fighters in defending Lebanon's territorial integrity and opening an intense and high-pressure front against northern and central areas of the occupied territories. These victories are congratulated to the Lebanese people and Muslims of the region. The deteriorating and chaotic conditions faced by residents of the occupied territories, exacerbated by the war policies of Netanyahu's government, are becoming evident, especially in areas where nuclear and military facilities are located near civilian populations. The dynamics of the war are rapidly shifting, and the Israeli army's control over the defense of the occupied territories is said to be collapsing. Apart from Dimona, Iran said it also targeted the Tel Aviv area, the nearby city of Rishon LeZion, and several U.S. bases, widening the map of the conflict far beyond a single nuclear-linked location. Fuel depots at Ben Gurion Airport were reportedly targeted during the 71st wave of Iranian attacks, aiming to cripple Israel's logistics, refueling capacity and ability to sustain prolonged air operations. According to the IRGC, U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Bahrain were struck using a mix of drones and heavy missiles, signaling that American forces across the Gulf are now firmly in the firing line. Iran says it has introduced more advanced systems for the next phase of operations, promising new tactics and upgraded weapons that could make future waves even more precise and harder to intercept.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
Honorable nation of Iran, congratulations on the blessed and auspicious holidays of Nowruz and Eid. Your soldiers in the army and the IRGC take pride in delivering the first fiery blow to the hostile enemy in the early hours of the new year. The brave men of the Islamic Republic of Iran Army at dawn today, by launching a large number of destructive drones, targeted the military infrastructure